Airports are typically the busiest and most regulated places to drive rideshare, so all drivers should be aware of the activity, the requirements, and the regulations to drive at your specific airport. Let's discuss. So today I'll talk about my experience at our international airport here in Minneapolis-St. Paul, and a lot of airports will be similar, but you'll want to make sure to check your specific rules and regulations at your airport, and we will have links that both Lyft and Uber provide for information on each specific airport in the description. Alright, so the first thing that every driver should know are the permitting requirements at your airport. For instance, here in Minneapolis-St. Paul, we are required to have a permit for each company that we drive for. One for Uber, one for Lyft. We were required to have one for Rides when Rides was operating here, and the cost of those permits here in Minneapolis and St. Paul are $25 per permit, so $50 total, $25 for Uber, $25 for Lyft. And along with the permitting, you should know what you need to display: a decal and or an emblem. For instance, here we're required to display a TNC decal, and that decal needs to be placed on the inside of our windshield behind our rearview mirror, and we're also required to display emblems for each company that we drive for. Now also, as far as the permits, you'll need to upload a digital copy to Uber and Lyft, just like your other documents like your license or your insurance. So you may have the images of the permits on your phone or even have access to the website where you obtain those permits. But for me personally, I like to print out actual paper physical copies that I keep in my vehicle, because I have heard of drivers being stopped at our airport and they weren't able to just provide that digital copy. They had to actually show a physical paper copy. Now another thing drivers should know is how they get matched with requests coming from the airport. One way is rematch, where you're dropping a passenger off at the airport, then after you complete that ride, as you're exiting the airport, you might get rematched with another rider coming from the airport. There's also express match on Lyft and being invited to the pickup zone on Uber, and what you're essentially doing with those is being invited to the pickup area and waiting for one request right there. There's also where you can wait in your holding lot and be placed in the queue, or, and this doesn't happen to me very often, you can receive a live request from the airport not even being in the queue. And as far as how I am typically being matched with riders currently, for the better part of last year, I would almost always get rematched with riders. So I'd be dropping a passenger off at the airport and then I would get another request from the airport. But lately I really haven't been getting rematched with riders, so I have the choice. I can choose to go wait in the queue, or I've found this to be about 50-50. I'm invited to the pickup zone, or as Lyft calls it, the express match zone. And the thing to remember about getting invited to that zone, I know this is correct on Lyft, I'm not sure exactly what it is on Uber. When you are invited to the express match zone with Lyft, you will get automatically matched with one rider. You don't have a choice. So it's your choice. If you get invited to that express match zone like right away, right after you drop a passenger off at the airport, you probably want to go to the express match zone. But if you've been waiting in the queue for say a half an hour and you get invited to the express match zone, you might not want to go to the express match zone because you won't have a choice in the request. You're automatically matched. Now if you choose to stay in the queue, then you do have a choice. Also, another thing to remember with express match, and this happened to me personally, is I went to the express match zone, I was matched with the rider, they didn't show up for like 10 minutes, so I canceled the ride. After I canceled the ride, then the app told me that I had to go to the staging area and join the queue. This isn't ideal, but what you should probably do is just wait for that rider as long as you possibly can. You don't want to go back to the staging area. You're already in the pickup area. Alright, the third thing you want to know are the staging areas at your airport, where they're located, and what the typical wait times are. For instance, here at MSP International, we have 2 terminals and we have 1 main dwelling lot. This is the main staging area. But what we also have are areas surrounding the airport that they call assignment areas. And all of these areas, the dwelling lot and the assignment areas, they include the entire airport queue for both platforms. Personally, I almost never go to the dwelling lot that is on the airport grounds. I always want to go to one of the assignment areas, because in those assignment areas, sure, you're in the airport queue, but you're also open to other requests outside of just airport requests. Requests that might come nearby in those areas. When you're in the dwelling lot, you're locked into just airport requests. Alright, and another thing to remember is when you're in the queue, you can actually decline requests and not get placed at the back of the queue. Lyft's documentation says that you can miss or decline up to 3 rides before getting placed at the back of the queue, and Uber's just says if you do not accept multiple incoming requests in a row. I do like that Lyft actually gives a number. It's up to 3. With Uber, it's a little bit more vague, but I'm guessing it's 3 on Uber as well. Again, that's for us here at MSP, but for instance, that's the rule also at LAX. And this does give you flexibility. If you've been waiting in that queue, you can decline some requests. You don't have to just accept whatever's coming to you. And this is different from Express Match, where you're automatically matched with one rider. So that's why I say if you've waited in the queue for a long enough amount of time, and then you're invited to the Express Match zone, you might just want to stay in the queue because you have some flexibility there, as opposed to going to the Express Match zone and getting automatically matched. Again, before we had these assignment areas surrounding the airport, I never waited in the airport queue. I only wait in those areas now because I can be in the airport queue as well as receiving nearby requests. Alright, and the last thing that you'll need to know is where the pickup area is at your airport. Here at Minneapolis-St. Paul International, our pickup area has changed like 4 times in the 11 years that I've been driving for Uber and Lyft. We now have a permanent pickup area that is across from arrivals at our main terminal, Terminal 1. And we are required to pick up there and only there. We cannot go to arrivals, we cannot go to departures, we have to go to that pickup area. And riders will occasionally ask if we can just come pick them up at arrivals, and I have to tell them every single time, they have to come to our specific pickup area. We cannot pick up at arrivals. And as far as drop-offs here, they're straightforward. We're able to drop off in the main area that every drop-off is made at. Alright, so those are the main things that every driver should know about operating at the airport. A lot of this stuff should be similar nationwide, but again, you want to know what the rules and regulations are at your specific airport. And again, we will have links to the information that is provided by both Lyft and Uber in the description. If you've yet to download the Solo app to help you manage your rideshare business and earn more, our referral link is in the description. We also have a free newsletter, and the link to sign up for that is in the description as well. If you've yet to watch my previous video on how Uber and Lyft waste our time, be sure to check that one out. Thanks again for watching and drive safe. Thanks.